Hello and welcome to the podcast portion of the Infamous Magnetic Weasel. I am your host, author, narrator, and confidential confidant, Donald Tiver. I will be delivering up for you another installment of story time. This is a contemporary one about two kids just trying to go on vacation. Parts of it are based on true stories. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end. It's called Banyan. The sea, she said to him a long time before the plan came into its earliest draft, is a place of happiness. It can be calm and powerful like a mother's arms, and so big it fills you up as far as you can see. The sight of it can make you cry or make you glad that you were born at all. Nadia always led, made headway, made decisions, and broke all the new ground until they found themselves standing on lonesome desert islands, clung like barnacles to the disappearing land. Dylan followed but would not consider himself a follower. She was 2 years older after all, and that made all the difference in the world. Between 10 and 12 lay the equivalent of a gap between 20 and 45, bedtime in Madrid and morning in Shanghai. Sometimes he willingly gave himself to her will, swept away by her persistent charisma, and other times he fought it like the tide and inevitably turned belly up with lungs full of salt water flowing in the direction of her wake. The scope of her newest plan amazed even him, which was meaningful since he knew her better than he knew anyone else. The friendship of their parents had allowed her to be the first child anywhere close to his age he would play with, and the convenience of their houses, only neighborhoods apart, allowed them to orbit each other throughout their developmental years. They crisscrossed one another's path, spiraling and replicating and hurling one another with their willpower like binary stars winding through time around a central point of gravity. "That's at least 50 miles away," he exclaimed, taken back. Even as she said the words, he knew he'd end up defeated. Yet if only for peace of mind, he had to resist. 50, 1,000, doesn't matter. It's important. When's the last time you been? I don't know, last summer? The one before. So what? Can't we just ask our parents to go soon? Parents, she mocked with a guffaw. The only thing parents are good for is reaching high shelves. We'll miss it. Miss everything if we count on them. We gotta get to the shore this weekend or else there's no point. Dylan didn't really care about some old pirate boat and some treasure on a whirlwind coastal tour here one weekend and one weekend only at the Jersey Shore. Sure, cool stuff, but no reason to go on some wild journey and get in all sorts of trouble for it. Might as well just look at some pictures, watch a documentary. The boat ain't the point, she sighed. It's getting there. You want to just wait? Wait 100 years till we can drive? No, that doesn't mean anything. If we earn it, it'll be much better. What about all the trouble we'll get in? Where are we going to sleep, huh? Details, Nadia cried. The only thing that matters is trying. Everything else just works. The boy sat by, nervous and sweating, while the girl made her plans. She plotted the course, tuned up the bikes, and snuck around like a thief in the night as she slyly plotted around the parental schedules and figured out exactly when and how the thing would play out. Every day, sometimes just a mention, others a rant, she would talk to Dylan about their secret. He grew to look forward to the clever insider hints, the special shared moments making jokes in front of clueless parents and friends, yet still he feared the trip itself. When the time finally came to leave their parents, convinced they were staying over other friends' houses that night, and it being about the time they were supposed to be in homeroom Friday morning, a fight nearly ended everything. "I've got a tent, a backpack full of food, and even toilet paper," Nadia cried, her heart racing with the thought of defeat, burning with even the thought of failure. It was like she hand-carved a dugout canoe and spent 100 hours doing it, and Dylan, watching the whole time, set it on fire as soon as she finished. "I don't think it's a good idea," Dylan winced. "I just don't feel good about it." Don't feel good about it? You're scared. When you ever been scared before? Not when that kid in your math class tried bullying you every day. You put a stop to that right away. You were smart about it, caught it early. This is all the same thing. After we get started, it'll all be behind us. You won't be scared anymore and it'll be fun. We'll only be gone a day and a half anyway. You can do it. Appealing to his ego with a sly appetizer of insult and finishing with a distinct taste of flattery was the perfect crack in the wall. Pretty soon, the dam that was his resistance would break, and he found himself actually excited about the trip after another 15 minutes of half-hearted protesting. The sun was high and hot, reflecting mirages of steam and puddles of molten black tar off the asphalt ahead of them. The road seemed to stretch on forever until it disappeared into the pine barrens of scorched sand and fire-blackened tree, until they reached the horizon and the setting repeated, allowing them no visual confirmation of progress. She was on a small mountain bike and had a heavy pack she dare not complain about. He was on a BMX bike, and the thought never occurred to him that it wasn't made for long hauls. Yet, as children often do, they would persevere simply because no one ever told them what they were doing was lunacy. Tell no one of the plan, circled a thought just beyond their conscious mind, and no one will tell you how foolish you are. At least Nadia had remembered water. She had about 4 bottles in her pack, and they each had bottles strapped to their bike frames. Probably barely enough to reach their destination, where they would need to refill for the way back. Also, to their relief, the path Nadia had plotted wasn't a busy one, not yet. Surely unbeknownst to them, shore traffic would set in later in the afternoon, just about the time they would be on the highway, and things would become more dangerous. Worse than their fear of being hit was the fear that a cop might stop and ask them what they were up to. Already showing signs of wear, they decided to stop at a lonely hot dog stand that marked about a quarter of their journey. It was a seasonal business lying en route to the shore from Philadelphia and was in a rather tiny town surrounded by little else than trees and sand. Nadia realized all too late the danger of this situation as she recognized a familiarity in the vendors. Already she was trying not to rouse suspicion in describing what she wanted on her hot dog and hoped for the best when it came to Dylan keeping his mouth shut about their journey. "Hey," came the first half-friendly slither of adult condescension. "You're Nadia, aren't you? Gee, we used to babysit you all the time." The middle-aged woman's tone was almost worse than the feeling of her eyes on Nadia's skin. Oh, yeah." A smile was faked. Kids never remember adults from years past. Adults know this, and it leaves room for deception. The second woman chimed in. "Where are you kids off to? You came a long way." "Yeah, we're going to see." Nadia kicked Dylan sharply and made it look like an accident, immediately finishing his sentence. "A friend of ours. We're seeing a friend who lives down this way." "I see." The adults were skeptical but not pushing. They left the kids alone as they ate their hot dogs at a bench, Nadia chomping as if she were in a contest and Dylan moseying like a gentle summer's breeze. "Quicker," Nadia said to him quietly. "We gotta get going." "It's so early still," Dylan laughed, still ignorant. "They're going to call our parents. We're now racing against the clock." "Huh? Oh, wait, really?" She nodded. "As soon as we leave, they can tell what we're up to. But instead of talking to us like we're adults, they have to go calling our parents. Cowards!" They finished their meals and got going in a whirlwind of swift pleasantries and pedaling. It was a straight shot for many miles, and then a turn at the highway and another straight shot to the shore. It would take either of their parents at least 2 hours to get there, and that was if they left work early. Hopefully those women would be received with mere answering machines, and then that would buy them at least until 5 or 6 at night. Nadia thought she could think of something in that time. After a few more grueling hours of pedaling and sweating and gasping up hills, inching closer to the searing face of the sun, they crossed a dirt path marked by small pillars of stacked brick. "Wait," Nadia shouted. "Idea time." She tried to explain to him why it was a good idea to camp at the base of a huge abandoned fire tower, but he didn't understand the appeal. He didn't do heights and was getting ready to call it quits anyway. "Like you said, our parents will be after us soon. What, are we going to hide from them and get in even more trouble?" Nadia sighed. "Of course that's what we're going to do. Think we can just stop now? Plus, they can't prove we hid from them on purpose. We'll just say they're bad at finding us. This doesn't change anything. We're getting in no less trouble than before. I'll even tell them I took you hostage." That made him smile, partially because they may believe it. "Even if we don't stay overnight," she continued, "it's best for us to detour there. That way if they go by, we won't be spotted and we can get back on the road after they've already been this way." Dylan didn't like it one bit. He didn't like the hour hike, walking their bikes through white-hot sugar sand, and he didn't like the vertigo he got from climbing the rackety metal steps of the disused fire tower. But he did it because he knew what was good for him. From the top of the tower, the highest place in all of the flatness of the Pine Barrens, the children saw the sun setting in the distance, just about to sink below the horizon and quietly explode, leaving the gentle, polluted glow of Philadelphia in its wake. The winds felt near gale force and swayed them slightly at the top step, perched right below the locked cabin which used to be occasionally manned by park rangers. To tell the truth, Dylan had an aversion to heights, but this truth he dared not tell, and be once again inferior to his cootie-having, daredeviling, lifelong best friend. An identical yet even deeper truth would be told, however, unexpectedly. I'm scared of heights, Nadia said so quietly Dylan began to suspect he was hearing things. The shock set in before the words came out and he fumbled over his own tongue. Wait, I'm scared too. Why'd you make us come up here? She spoke in a serious and solemn way, using her long pause as a space in which to hold up her thought as an abstract monolith, invisible in the dusky summer evening, and evaluate it with admittedly childish wonder. I like being scared. Nadia didn't know it, but she was counterphobic. She was inexplicably attracted to any situation that made her sweat, cringe, cry, or race her heart like she put money on it at the track. If she would live to see her 20s, she would also inevitably live to see the world rushing at her from several miles up or the ground crumble underneath her while she sped downhill on a sturdy mountain bike, or any other number of exhilarating things that would cause most other people to share bathroom habits with the very old and the very young. Yet she was no less scared than anyone else. Her advantage, her curse, was that she enjoyed the fear. She thrived on it like mosquitoes thrived on blood, or the way politicians lived on the misconception that they were somehow useful. Dylan, legs swung over the edge and arms resting on the rail just like hers, inched over to her and put his arm around her. He couldn't tell if she was crying or shivering. It wasn't cold, but in comparison to the heat of the day, a body was bound to notice. Let's get down, he said, not needing to tell her they should absorb the view as fully as possible beforehand. It was darker now and the stars were popping out 2 or 3 at a time within the zenith, barricaded by the glow of Philly and Atlantic City on opposing horizons. Before they knew it, they were laughing and goofing around again in the tiny tent Nadia had brought. They set it up off the path in a spot that would prove to be inconspicuous, if only accidentally. Sooner rather than later, sleep set in. They would soon wake up huddled in a sweaty pile, the nylon of the tent somehow refracting the 6 a.m. rays of the sun like a mirror on 2 ants. In a flash they were packed and off once again. My legs hurt. We rode a lot yesterday, Dylan complained. Yeah, we did. Get used to it. It's good for you, she answered, feeling the same pains. Wait. A trail marker. Oh no, thought Dylan. This is trouble. This is the Batona Trail, she said, as if it meant anything to him. She explained it led right to the shore. Ancient Indian trail. Probably even see helper animals and friendly fur traders along the way. I've been down this way before, she lied, and he knew, but said nothing. Her pervasiveness was such that he couldn't help but believe she knew what she was doing, even if he knew she lied about how she knew. Some sort of instinct drove her, that was certain, and denying it would only serve to enrage her. Sometimes they rode, sometimes they walked, sometimes they lost the trail. Of course Nadia didn't admit that. She only stated that there was a shortcut or something that they must have taken. Knew all about the trail, she insisted. After a while, Dylan began losing his faith in her. 4 hours later, they were all out of water and thirsty as hell with no sign of the path meeting an end. This is bad. We don't know where we are, and we're out of water. Been out of food since this morning, Dylan whined, trying to retain a sense of loyalty through observation without accusation. She assured him it wouldn't be much longer. Whether or not she believed that herself, she tried not to think about. What was important was keeping up morale and keeping him pacified until the inevitable I told you so moment. Everything just works, she thought. After 2 more hours of painful silence, he could hardly take it anymore. Damn it, damn it, damn it, we're lost! We're not going to find the road, and if we did, we wouldn't know what stupid road it was, but we better find it because we have to flag down a car and hope they don't kill us, and have a phone, and we'll call my mom, and give us some damn water, and I don't know how much longer I can take this. I'm gonna freaking die deader than a doorknob. Doornail! What? Listen, Nadia screamed, to scare a little sense into him. Dylan's panting prevented him from hearing the noise she referred to. It was the distant sound of trucks along the highway. She sprinted immediately and he followed, stumbling, cursing to himself, still not understanding. After a few minutes he was in tears and not even noticing his surroundings. He stopped mid-sentence and forgot instantly what he was babbling about as he saw the stretch of highway before them. Dumbfounded, he gawked at her wide-eyed as she beamed toward the long stretch of asphalt that would mark their path to the sea. Little else was said as they tore down the road in a whirlwind of pedaling and panting, reeling and laugh-crying. For hours it went this way, rushing with the gladness of being on the road again. The cars, but especially the giant trucks, flew by the kids, and at a moment like that, Nadia resented her love of fear. She hoped to no end that they would remain unscathed, pressed against the shoulderless roadside, dodging the broken asphalt on the right and speeding vehicles on the left. "How do you know we're going the right way?" asked the first mate. "The sun is just starting to set behind us," said the captain. After what seemed like weeks, they panted and winced over the bridge, distraught by an even more lacking shoulder and even more speeding cars. The beach was in sight. Over the patchwork summer homes and stretches of sand and saltwater taffy shops, bakeries and surf shops lay the enormous prize of their toils. The friendly and unforgiving body of water from which countless life forms emerged, thrived, and eventually disintegrated within. Not a minute's ride past the bridge, the flashing of red and blue lights from behind caught their field of vision, reflecting off the objects in front of them. Anxiety struck, and a palpable tension forced Nadia to tighten her brow and yelp a silent, anguished whimper. A moment later, the cop car pulled in front of them, and there was no escape. "We're dead," Dylan sighed. The cop interrogated. Their stories flipped, slipped, ducked, and two-stepped over one another in a frenzy. Dylan trying to get out of trouble and Nadia trying only to get to the sea. "Okay," she said. At this point, it being obvious the cops were looking for them on word from their parents. "We just wanted to go to the beach, to get there ourselves. We wanted to prove we could do it." Dylan was speechless, confused, then angry. "You lied! You lied to me! You told me we were going to see a pirate ship with treasure. Blackbeard and his booty and gold coins, coastal tours, one-time only chances, and ancient treasure." Nadia was ashamed. She said nothing. The cop interjected. "Get in the car, both of you. I'm putting your bikes in the trunk." They were quiet in the car, unwilling to speak and unsure how. When they took off, they were surprised they weren't going the opposite way. Minutes later, they were at a dead-end street buffered by sand dunes. The officer opened his door and stepped out and said, "Go ahead," and the kids did the same. Bewildered, they followed him to the top of the sand dune. The sun now directly behind them, a half hour until it would set. The sea berthing over the dune in front of them and reflecting the rays across tired, tepid summer waves, gentle as they'd ever seen. "You come this far, 15 minutes, then I have to take you back." The cop nodded toward the ocean. Nadia was just as elated as depressed. The ocean, freedom. Time limits? On freedom? The bitter irony did not escape her young mind. She casually walked toward the water and took off her shoes, wading into it knee-deep. Dylan did the same. It wasn't in his character to betray her lead, no matter how mad he got. "I'm sorry," she began. "I just wanted to convince you because I knew it would be worth it." He spoke calmly with a presence that reached beyond his years. "You're just like the adults, you know. You lied to me because you think you're smarter than me." It was true, or rather it used to be. It hurt her to hear it. She vowed it wouldn't be true anymore. "Not anymore. I'm sorry it happened. I just wanted this to happen." She pointed to the horizon, the vast Atlantic Ocean curving to infinity on either side. Whenever she looked at it, she felt things beyond her explanation. She felt incredible permutations of animals floating, swimming, struggling out of monotonous voids, and becoming living monuments, crashing on the blood-soaked beaches of war-torn human suffering, related intimately and yet marginally. Nadia cried and suffered inside, pent up with the eons of change inherent in her blood, spilling out and mixing into the great mysterious waters that she knew inside were her real parents. Nearly 10 quiet minutes later, Nadia and Dylan approached the officer hand in hand. "We can go home now," she said, and saying it felt strange. They were home already. Now they'd be going somewhere else, somewhere that felt like a visitation. It was temporary, and somehow they knew it. Well, there you have it. That was a story I wrote for a class years ago that the teacher didn't even finish reading. She critiqued something about the ending that was completely wrong, and I think she did that because she was sick of reading my shit because the class actually enjoyed it, and she didn't really have anything to say. I don't know. I can't. That's my assumption. But it was based on a true story. One summer, a couple of my friends and I decided to try to ride our bikes to the shore, which I don't know off the top of my head how many miles that is, but it's a good hike in the heat. About an hour car ride. And we did actually stop at the little hot dog stand in Chatsworth. And my dumbass friend told the people there what we were up to. And the people used to babysit for his sister, or still did. And so when we left, they immediately called his grandparents and tracked us down. They picked him up first, his sister and his grandmother screaming at him. I wanted to keep going. My other friend wanted to turn back, and he got caught on the way back. And they offered me a ride, but I thought I was close to my house. I was like, no, I'll just ride home. I didn't want to be in the car when he got yelled at. And I think he was pissed at me because he thinks that they would have waited, or his mom would have waited to yell at him until after she dropped me off. But what's it matter? It's like, you get 20 minutes extra where you're not getting yelled at. But I finally got home. I calculated it later. I did about 35 miles on a BMX bike. And I collapsed into the yard. And I couldn't move for like 15 minutes. My legs were fucking jello. I didn't do any kind of training for that. I rode my bike maybe like 3 miles in, every other day or something. So our plans were thwarted. We didn't really want to go for any real reason, though. So I kind of took the spirit of that and adapted it into a intentionally nostalgic contemporary thing with a couple of kids, because I like the Goonies and Stand By Me as much as anybody else, but I wanted to, kind of make a very shortened version of that for class, because I had hit them with so much shit already, so much weird stuff. I mean, if you've listened to my other things, September was the first thing I did for that class, and people were just, I don't think they knew what to think, but that's what I wanted, so I decided to hit them with something a little palatable after trying to fuck their heads up. So that's that. I don't know. Signing off. Thanks for watching, listening, whatever the hell you did.